Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Oregon Safe Routes to School Action Plan webinar. Today is April 24th, and our webinar is from noon to 1 p.m. today. I'm going to wait just a moment to let a couple more people join in, and we'll get started with our webinar. At the end of the webinar today, I'm going to go over some of the details for the upcoming webinars we have. This is the second webinar in a series that Oregon Safe Routes to School is doing. We have several of them up on our website right now, which we'll talk about in just a couple moments. So welcome everybody, and we'll get started here in just another moment. Okay, all right. Well, welcome today, everyone who's on the line. I'm just going to go through a couple of housekeeping portions for all of you right now you are on the line. You're all muted at the moment, but as we get to the Q&A near the end of this webinar today, I'm going to unmute everyone, and then you're going to have to go in and unmute yourself again if you want to speak. There's also a chat window if you have questions. You can type in questions that I'll come to during the Q&A session. You can either send that out to the entire audience or just the presenter myself. And we'll go through this presentation, but also I'm going to make this interactive in the form of heading over to our Oregon Safe Routes to School website and going through the online action plan. So let's go ahead and get started. So once again, gotta click over, there we go. All right, my name is Brian Potwin. I'm the Executive Director of Commute Options. I'm also the Oregon Safe Routes to School Technical Assistance Provider for the Non-Infrastructure Program. Commute Options is a nonprofit that's based in Central Oregon. We serve 17 counties east of the Cascade Range, but we also work statewide with Safe Routes to School, Get There, and we also have a walking school bus program. And moving forward, our agenda today is to discuss the Safe Routes to School Action Plan and really dive into the details of what this is. This is a new action plan that was revised from the older action plan. If any of you are familiar with that predated my time with Safe Routes to School, which I've been involved with Safe Routes since 2007. So we all felt like it was a good opportunity to do a refresh, get this updated to current standards and make it more accessible and easy for all of you to use. So first off, I want to talk about the Oregon Safe Routes to School website. If you haven't gone and checked that out yet, it's fantastic, and we're constantly adding new information and resources to it. Specifically, I'm going to point to our resources page today, but I encourage you to navigate through all the different sections and learn more about Safe Routes to School. We will be updating the news and events with the upcoming webinars we have, so if you haven't checked that out yet, go ahead and scroll through the news and events section. I'm going to jump over actually to the Oregon Safe Routes page so we can navigate from here. So the one section I really want to point out here is in our resources page. This is a new page that we just launched this last year. And it is a good spot to collectively share good resources around the state. So By no means is this resource page all encompassing everything Safe Routes to School. We have taken the time to vet through different resources and materials and put them up on this page. So there's more out there in the world, but these are the ones that we wanted to highlight. Specifically, if you can see my cursor cruising around here, the physical distancing section is new, and there are lots of good new resources there. We're currently working on an e-toolkit for at-home instruction for the Education and Encouragement Program, and it will live in that folder once it is completed. So moving down through, if you scroll down, like I said, there's lots of good information here. I'm going to take us to the action plan and resources specific page. Here we have lots of good info as far as the physical Safe Routes to School travel action plan that you can download in a writable format, and also the guidance that goes along with it. With this, we also have the information about the student hand tallies, how to access this through the saferoutesdata.org site. You'll have to create your own username and password and follow the instructions on the Safe Routes data page to log in and do your student hand tallies. This is a good resource to use for your student hand tallies because not only does it collect in one specific place, but they also have really good reports that they send out that you can actually create to add to your action plan itself. I'm seeing we have a typo here we need to fix. Patient caregiver survey is not correct. That's supposed to be parent caregiver survey. This is through Alta Planning and Design. They created this past year for their project and identification program. And it's a really good survey. We are looking at this next year to get this online as well and combine this with the student hand tally portion. There's a Spanish version. There's also an online survey that you can take. And then the walk audit. This is another tool that you'll need for the action plan itself, going through the document. This will help you fill this action plan out. So heading back over, I'm actually going to walk you through the online version of this today. If you are an ODOT grantee with Safe Routes to School, then you either have interacted with me to get a link and a password, or I can get that to you to do this online. We've changed to an online format this past year to really provide an opportunity for ease and also for us on the back end to be able to review what you're doing and help answer questions as you go through it. So it's really meant to be a spot to save everyone's work and for us to work together as well. So I'm going to head over to that right now, but I'm going to show you how you will do that if you haven't gotten a link from me yet. So this is the information that I'll send to you. We need to work on the back end to create the specific site for you, so it's not sitting there yet if you haven't received this information from me. But it's very specific to you and your schools that you're working with. So your username will be your email, your password. You can change this once you get in, so I'm not sharing everybody's passwords with each other right now. This is something that you can change in the future. And then once you're logged in, then you'll go to the address down here and you put in your own first name. We've tried to tailor to fit this to make this very accessible. It takes a moment to get into it, but it's password protected for our own safety and security purposes for the private information. So then you'll be asked to use the password again, and then moving forward as well. If you have questions about this or having trouble, you can reach out to me. My email is brian@commuteoptions.org. And also our web developer, I can send you her email address to dive into if there's more technical difficulties. So you don't have to write all this down. I'm just showing you the basic information right now. You'll receive this information from me if you haven't already. So moving back over to the website itself, once you navigate into the website, this is an example. This is here locally in Bend, all the schools that we work with and that we're working on action plans for specifically. So this is why it's tailored to you and your program itself. You'll have all of your schools in here ready for you to click on and start working on. That's why it's important that you send me all of the schools that you're going to be writing action plans for specifically. So you can, I'll click on one of them, which I already have. And this is what it looks like. To give you an overview of this page and what we're doing here, helping with navigation. Really, before you begin, we definitely recommend you open the guidance document. So if you click on this, you can download it in a PDF format. And it goes through all of the information that we're going to be covering today in more detail for you to help you understand the steps in the process for going through this action plan. You can also find this guidance document over here in different sections. Click on it for a drop-down menu when you get to said section to understand what that all means specifically, and you can click on it and it'll fold back up. So let's dive into the action plan itself. And like I said, if you have questions throughout this, go ahead and write some messages in the chat so I can come to it for the Q&A at the end. All right, so this first page is pretty self-explanatory. School name, district, address, website, you know, and as I say this also, I want to take a little bit of a step back here and just talk about the action plan as itself. So, you know, really this action plan is designed to help Safe Routes to School practitioners, coordinators, schools, and communities write this action plan by compiling information all in one place as it's collected and created throughout the planning process. So the action plan is a community-based approach for increasing rates of active school travel. So this is meant for school staff, parents, and students to work together with community stakeholders such as city or county staff, nonprofits, and public health officials to create the plan. This is meant to be revisited on at least an annual basis in order to update the information in it and adapt it to really track the implementation and the data collection. So the action plan itself is a tool for planning with a small lowercase p. This is not a large capital P plan that you would use for, say, infrastructure planning in a larger format in that capacity. The other piece that is important to understand about this action plan is that it's good and useful for evaluating your program, you know, really setting out what your goals are and then coming back to revisit them on an annual basis in order to create a successful program in the long term. You know, going through these first couple sections is really laying the groundwork for, you know, who you're working with and looking at what their needs are based upon the barriers and hazards that are there at the specific school you're working with. We have received a lot of good feedback about creating a different document that is a district-wide action plan. We've been in discussion with that. We have no specific plans at the exact moment to move forward and create that, but anything is possible in the future and the upcoming years. So that's the overall purpose of the action plan, is planning itself and also looking at goals with your vision and then adapting it to create the best program you have at your schools on an annual basis to then change it based upon what you do achieve and what you are successful with to move forward in your upcoming years. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about that before we dive into these larger details. Okay, yeah, so back to the page 1 here. This is basic school information. As you see in the bottom corner there as well, you can save the draft where you are to come back to it, which is really important to be able to do. And you can also go back and forth to in between the different pages. So this is really meant to be super fluid for you to scroll through, work on it as you can. I've set up this document to really be played out from start to finish as far as how this goes. But if you are going through this document and seeing different places that you can add in information and then come back later to fill in others, by all means, go ahead and do that. The addition tracking, this is really to keep track for yourself about when you've finalized it per year. And make note of that when you officially launch the action plan, and then when you actually update the information as far as the follow-up data collection and the implementation tracking date for year 1, 2, and 3. So this really helps you, go back and say, oh, when did I finish that? And that can be a good tool to helping you go back and make sure you're getting into year 2 and year 3 with this to move forward. Your lead contact for the Safe Routes to School team is really important. Who is your main person? Sometimes we call them our champion or champions. This is a person that you're going to be interacting with the most throughout this, and it could be a variety of different people. It could be a school principal, it could be someone from a parent-teacher organization, site council, it could be a specific teacher, it could be someone within your community who is affiliated with the school, who is helping you work with this. So there's a lot of different options there. I've also added in an alternate contact, just to know who overall the team members are, who's the next person in line to interact with. Moving forward, and this really starts to get into our different sections. So going back over on the right-hand side here, this really lays out, who your key partners are. And you notice that is broken down into, who the specific key partners are, versus other participants of the Safe Routes to School team. The key partners are the ones that you really need to have to be working with. So that's a school representative, so a principal, like I talked about before, other school staff within the school district when it exists, and then moving forward to a parent representative, PTO, site council, who's endorsed and recognized by the school. That's important. City county representative that's endorsed by a local road authority is important to have. There's information here pertaining to that individual. If there is a local safety committee as far as traffic goes, also important. Not to say that these other participants aren't, but these are the key folks you really need on your team, because when thinking about this, plan overall, it can be quite daunting. And we understand that, but this is not meant for you, if you are a Safe Routes coordinator, to do specifically on your own. Think of this team as a resource for you to reach out to, interact with, get information from that they specifically would know. And we'll go through this and I'll point that out along the way, but this really is meant to be a team effort. And meeting with your school team as well is really important to do. That can be done, in a group call or online group chat. And hopefully in the future too, we can all meet with each other again in person. But your team is really the core, and this is why this is section 1, to develop this, because they're going to help you really suss out the rest of what is going on in this action plan, and you'll be able to get this information really easily from them. So that's really important, and why I put this first. Like I said before, feel free and ask questions in the chat, and I'll get to them at the end of this, but just to put that back out there. All right, section 2, this is really getting to know your school specifically. So the way I look at this from section 1 down to section 7 is we're really starting at like a 40,000 foot view and then going down and drilling down into it for more information. So here we've got students who live within a mile and a half radius of your school. It's Title I, grades served, and some more information here about your school specifically. This is why it's important to have the team, because then you can gather this information from them fairly readily, easily as well. Some of this information is also online, but I encourage you to talk with your team members about it. So the school attendance boundary area, there's maps online, and also you can reach out to your school districts about that. I've added abilities here to upload documents if there's supplemental information that you can refer to in the future with this. This is important specifically so you know where your students are coming from. What's your school boundary? What's the area you're working with? Some are large, some are smaller, depending on what school it is. Moving forward. Also, another great reason to get together with your school team is section 3. So this is your vision for school travel. This really sets the tone of what you're trying to accomplish. Successful programs benefit from the school and community working together toward a common vision. So the statement here can either be a single statement that you write out, or it can be a list of goals, or even a short paragraph. It's up to you. What I've written here is there's nothing correct or incorrect about this. What's really important is getting that team together and figuring that out as a collective. And there's information here on the right about what that looks like specifically, and some examples as well of what school visions can be. Okay, section 4. Section 4 starts to get into the data collection, some more of the nitty-gritty detail. I am a data fan, so I really enjoy this section. This is why at the beginning of this I talked about the different resources we have up on our website itself for the saferoutesdata.org, and also the parent caregiver survey too. So this section really goes into putting that information here. You really want to talk about the AM and the PM to understand what's happening with your students. So this really helps you not only understand what your percentages are, but also can help you with your perceptions of active transportation, and also get into the school policy section when you get into the parent caregiver survey. So this is literally just a page to input the data. All right, so the perceptions here, this goes in line with the parent caregiver survey. This is an important section because data is one thing, but anecdotal information is a whole other deal. And having that from your parents and what's really happening on the ground can help you determine what your biggest priorities are for your program as a whole. You may come into it and have maybe a couple people say, well, we really want to do a bicycle rodeo, and that's what we think is the best thing. Well, is it actually the best thing? It may be a good thing to do, a good activity, but is that what's really needed as far as accomplishing the overall goals of the school? So this is an important piece within that. And also, what are the biggest concerns they have as well? It's important to understand that from the parent and caregiver point of view, because they see it from a different perspective. So thinking, along that line of the larger vantage point within this, it's also important to know what the school's transportation policies are that can affect the student's ability to walk or roll to and from school. And this goes into what the busing policies are. Is there supplemental hazard busing to the school? And that would mean busing that's available within the mile to a mile and a half radius due to hazardous roadway conditions. You have that. It's good to know and understand, because that'll help you understand what different types of road conditions you're going to be dealing with. And also, is there any restrictions, thinking about school travel policies, are there any restrictions at the school surrounding that? There are some at different schools I've worked in before, so it's not the most uncommon thing. All right, now getting more into the meat of it and thinking about what you're going to be working on moving forward. Looking at walking focused activities for this year that you're thinking about doing, and also understanding what's happened in the past. Some of the schools that you'll be working with have interacted with Safe Routes to School before, and it's good to know, what the bases are for their understanding of what is going on. Same with rolling activities as well. What's happened in the past? I put some examples up here of walk and roll to school day, May Challenge Month, bicycle rodeos. It's good to know what has happened in the school in the past, especially not just around walking and rolling specifically, but overall messaging that's happening within the school to get the lay of the land. Section 5, so we'll click over here. This gets into the walk audit, which I talked about earlier in the action plan resources. This is another great portion or activity to do with your school team, gathering a group of folks together to go really understand the lay of the land and the key issues that are impacting your safe walking and rolling to school. So the walk audits are a great tool to gather information about street conditions, engage community members, inform planning, and also upcoming potential safety projects themselves. The walk audit that is up online really goes through it in detail. It talks about how and where students get to school on campus, and so you can easily fill this information in on this page here. Really looking at what your walking conditions are, rolling, driving conditions, looking at that larger viewpoint. And then getting into it from the barriers and hazards, that's one of the big portions of this is what's causing students not to be able to walk and roll to and from school, very, very specifically. There we have a great infrastructure program as well that's run through ODOT, and there's some new grant opportunities coming up, but not everyone is going to be awarded these next year. So, you know, what can you do now with the education and encouragement enforcement portion? And so really looking at what those barriers are, and that's where the parent giver survey, working with your school team to dissect that and go through is important to do. So looking at this from a goal-oriented point of view, this is where we start to get into the priorities that you have. And looking at it from the perspective of what you're doing in year one, what activities you're going to be laying out, who is going to be doing them specifically. Is it you, the coordinator? Is this going to be delegated to another member of the team? Laying out a timeline for when you're going to be doing it, talking about the different resources you're going to need for it. You know, if you're going to start an education program and working with your teachers specifically, you know, what resources do you need to do that? You know, some of the big portions of Safe Routes to School really focus on, you know, being as inclusive as possible with this and thinking about everyone that you're interacting with. So how can you be as inclusive for all of the students and the families that you're engaging with? So that's, you know, really focusing on the how equitable your program is, which I can't stress enough is really important for this. And also defining within this which element of safe routes is important or which one you're focusing on here. And it could be several at the same time. You know, so if you haven't heard the Safe Routes to School elements before, education, encouragement, enforcement, engineering, evaluation, and equity all make up a successful Safe Routes to School program. Education is the teaching children about a broad range of transportation choices, instructing them in important lifelong walking, rolling safety skills. And this can be done in a variety of different ways during school hours or after school, during the summertime. Encouragement, I think of as the fun portion, the community building piece of Safe Routes to School. So these are the great fun activities you can do with the school, with families. It's all about motivating, getting folks together and working towards that common goal. Now, in our current times that we're in, there are other ways to do encouragement activities. And like I said, we're developing an e-tool kit right now that's helping focus on at home and specific areas. You know, but moving forward, hopefully past this specific time frame, we'll be able to do these types of things again in the future. Also enforcement, working with your local law enforcement to deter unsafe behaviors by all or of all road users, encouraging them to obey traffic laws and share the road safely. And then engineering, like I said before, we've got a fantastic infrastructure program with ODOT and upcoming grant opportunities, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. But that's a built environment piece that's a mile to a mile and a half radius around the school. The evaluation portion of this is super important to do that data collection, including the tallies, parent surveys, the assessments that we've discussed, and it's really about determining existing conditions to gauge the effectiveness of the program. And all of this is under the umbrella of equity, so distributing the planning resources and educational programs equitably across the district, so striving to incorporate equity into each one of the elements that I just listed is key and important with this. Also, thinking about how you're going to be measuring success, and from the different activities that you're doing in year one, what are your definable and achievable goals you're trying to reach out to? Okay, and this is, I've put in different sections here so you can have multiple goals. So this is looking at that same one again, so you can have multiple goals here. And another goal, it's up to you. You don't have to fill all these in, but I just want to provide space for it. And then moving forward into the next section of this, looking about evaluating and improving and continuing. So this evaluation portion is really meant for you to look at it yourself and see how can we improve this program and make it better based upon the goals that you set out, the activities that you set out. What were those standards you're trying to meet as far as those measures of success? Did you achieve them? Great. Did you not? Well, that's okay too. Why did you not achieve them? And so this goes through a series of questions for you to interact with specifically about this, so you can really have some time to reflect. I wanted to call this out. We wanted to call this out and say, take a pause, take a moment, go back, look at what you've done, from an objective point of view, and say, was this successful? Was I gaining what I wanted to gain out of this? Were we wanting to gain what we wanted to gain out of this as a school team with the overall vision and the goals that we had at the beginning of this year? And if not, that's completely okay. I mean, this Safe Routes to School program, it's challenging. And it can be a long process, and so don't get detoured, but I do encourage all of you to celebrate your small wins and your small successes, no matter what they are. And that can be done in a variety of different ways. Some congratulatory air high fives from a safe physical distance is one good way to do that, but just acknowledging them overall is really important. And this is done every year with this. So as you see, as we go through this, year two, it's the same format. What are your goals, objections, your actions, objectives, your actions that you're going to take, the activity that you're going to be doing, who's responsible for it is super important, the timeline, resources, how you're going to be equitable, which element it covers, how you're going to be measuring your success. So that's really a bulk of the remainder of this. So I'm going to skip through this, but this really shows you how this is built to come back to each year as you're working on this. So this is a working document that's meant for you to further your program. So I'm just going to click through this. And then also, thinking about it from the long term and sustainability, because what we know about Safe Routes to School is that the more we can diversify our funding sources and the more support we can get, the better off and more successful the program is going to be. So thinking about it from the perspective of sustainability, you've identified here your short-term activities, but it's also in the same breath you want to be thinking about this at year one. So right now, what are your sustainable long-term goals? And this is something to really look at with your school team. And I can't emphasize that enough, that it's not just on the specific coordinator themselves for this. The coordinator leads the charge and makes sure that everything is heading in the correct direction. But working with that school team to delegate, to get resources from is super, super important. And this is another good example of that. So listing also, what your top 3 goals are for the long-term sustainability of your program, whether that's funding, whether that's actual, data metrics of how much you want to increase active transportation at your school. I'd be happy to talk with you through this portion as well if you have questions in the future about that. All right, moving on to section 7. And this portion here, really looking at the public input. Now, of course, we've had our parent giver surveys, we've got our Safe Routes to School team we're working with, but what more information can you get from the larger public? And this can be done through a variety of different ways, gathering different input from folks about this. And this is super important because if you don't engage the public, then you're going to miss an opportunity for that specific buy-in from them. And you may be missing out on an opportunity to engage with folks who don't know about Safe Routes to School yet. So it's an opportunity to educate and also gather information. And I've laid out in section 7 here of the guidance document about how to do that specifically and how to get that input from folks as you do this. So there is a button here to submit, but if you do that, it'll just take you back to this page here, and you can always go back into your document and work on it at a later date. So that is the entirety of the Safe Routes to School action plan that I have for you, and I would love to open this up to questions going into the Q&A portion of this. We've got 23 people on the call today, which is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and unmute all of you, but you've got to go in also into the attendees section of the control panel to unmute yourself in order to ask a specific question. Also, like I said before, in your control panel that you should all have popped up, there is a chat section. You can type a message in here and we can discuss it from there. So I'll open it up to some Q&A, and I'd love to hear any thoughts or questions that folks have.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Brian. It's McCrae.
Hi, McCrae.
So I have some different questions in what we were going through, so I'll ask them. My first is kind of a procedural one, and it is our ability, that this database is live here. Is there an ability to download the document to like our own work drives, like my G drive at COG? Do you know about that? Is that interface there? How it works?
Yeah, it is actually. So
Okay.
thanks for throwing me an easy one. I love it. So if you go onto the Safe Routes website, you can download the template here off the website and do it offline. We've made it available in a couple different formats for the reason you're talking about specifically. So
well, actually, let me fine tune it. I mean,
maybe it's
I want I want to be able to do the online, right?
Okay.
In this platform. What I'm wondering is when I'm in section 7 and I save, is there a way for me to be able to have this information just duplicated in our environment? Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to take a note of that and ask my web developer on that one, because that's a little bit above my own head. So to reiterate, you want to rephrase that again for me so I can write that down.
So what I want is I want to work here and be able to have my documents saved into your online platform, but I want to be able to also like either as I work on it or when I'm completed with it, be able to save it and put it into our network system at the Council of Governments.
Got it. Okay, great. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, I have more questions, but if you want to open it up for other people and come back.
Yeah, let's see. Let's pause for a second if anybody else chimes in, and if not, then yeah, you're welcome to keep asking some more questions. Thank you, McCrae. That's great.
Hi, I have a question. This is Nicole from Clackamas County.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi there. Hey, so I guess to start with, is this recommended like from here on out, or how would you recommend going into the past as far as previously completed action plans?
That's a great question. So are you referring to, you have action plans that are complete to this point already? Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, some from, several years ago that haven't been updated, some from, the last couple of years, and then some we're in the middle of right now, and obviously sort of being paused. So I'm just wondering if this is, from here on out, or if at some point in time we would add in the ones we recently completed.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm definitely recommending using this from here on out. This is the new format that we're going with. If you have action plans that are several years old, this is also a really good opportunity to update them. Some of your information is not going to be changing at all. But also there may be information that is changing, specifically in your who's on your school team, what's happening within your school as far as the number of students walking, rolling to and from school, and overall, just what your vision is here. So there are several elements in this new revision that are consistent with the older action plan, and we tried to keep them kind of similar in that way because we realized there are lots of other action plans out there. So instead of recreating the whole wheel, that's how we chose to do it in this way. But we are recommending moving forward with this action plan template.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. And then one other question, could you give an example on that one page of sustainability and long-term goals? I'm just curious what would be a top one of those as an example from you?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great one. So, from my perspective, it's all about funding resources specifically, diversifying where the funding is coming from. And that could be something you start small with. I mean, is that helmet donations you're getting from local businesses, things of that nature. It doesn't have to be how do you replace all of the funding that you have right now to the dollar figure in the future. It's what are you doing to make this sustainable past the ODOT funding itself. So thinking about it from that perspective, start small, start realistic. What can you do? What's achievable for you? I bring up the helmet donation because that's something that is a good place to start to get people and partners on your team to move that forward. So that's the first example I can think of. Good question.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian. Oh, sorry. This is Bernadette from Hillsborough.
Hi, Bernadette.
Quick question. Hi. Is this template geared towards all programs in the state, or is it mostly for programs that are funded through ODOT?
That's a great one also. So, when I designed this, it was thinking about the entire state specifically to help all of us put a framework together on, what we have on the ground and how to move forward. So it's not necessarily focused only on ODOT grantees, but that's where it originated from. is from the ODOT perspective, but we're hoping that this is a good tool resource for all programs. Oh, looks like I lost you there.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, there we are.
I have another question, but I'll let someone else go. Maybe we can loop back after.
Okay. Yeah, and if we don't get to everybody's questions today, then you know, we can set up a call and discuss them in more detail. I'm happy to do that. That's what I'm here for. And like I said, I've unmuted all of you, but you have to go in and into the attendees section and unmute yourself again. It's a double layer of muting. Okay, well, if you are wanting to ask a question, we'll come back around to you, but I know that McCrae and also Bernadette had a couple more. So let's circle back to McCrae and then we'll go back to you, Bernadette.
All right. One, I think it was under section 1 about lead contacts.
Mm-hmm.
And the way my program is, so I'm just wanting, you know, like, yeah, that's suitable, is I think with where I am with the program 4 months in and hoping to have action plans in place in the fall, it seems like my principal is my lead contact so far, and I could see that evolving, and I'm just wondering, is that appropriate? Or should I be exploring and digging more to find that person at this point? Like, all my schools' principals are on board, both
Mm-hmm.
by direction from the, you know, superintendent, but also because they just want the programs. So
Yeah.
any thoughts about that?
Well, I think that's fantastic. Everything you just said is amazing and great.
Yeah,
If
I
your
agree.
superintendent is on board and your principals are on board, that's huge as far as administration goes. You know, there's no right answer when it comes to your lead contact. And
Okay.
I guess my real answer to it is it depends.
Yeah.
You know, and really what it comes down to is who is going to be the most available for you to work with. And, you know, it may be the school principal, but is that really the best person? Principals are very busy. And so,
Yeah.
you know, it just depends on, you know, how much availability they have, how passionate they are about this, and also putting it on you to recognize, okay, this principal is super excited about this, but they're taking a long time to get back to me. I'm not able to further what I need to in the time that I have because of that. And so can you talk to that principal and have them help delegate some of that work? You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what that comes down to.
Okay. And then my other question is, I think I shared that the school district already has a site assessment team in place, and I see that as, I don't know if it was under section 3 about like your whole group, you know, your county representative, your jurisdictional representative. So I'm just asking the question, like, I feel like I'm gonna have overlap between my documents.
Mhm.
And, you know, if that seems appropriate to start, or, you know, I just feel like there's some things that are going to carry through all my first action plans. And I guess I'm just kind of like, well, I don't want to just be like throwing stuff in. But there's already things that are really in place that, you know, maybe the addition at each school would be a parent or staff who's also. So does that seem?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's important that's why I wanted to review this action plan with all of you today, is to really get into the nuts and bolts of this and see where those overlapping pieces are. You know, several of the coordinators around the state have similar issues or similar thoughts that you're having right now about this. So how do I overlap? And I think, you know, it's really about the general understanding about this, and also getting into the details, specifically what's in the walk audit and how does that overlap with what you're also doing, you know, and are there areas to bring those two things together. So, you know, that's really on the coordinator themselves to think about that, identify, and the last thing you want to do is make people do things twice. And so that's also, you know, important for you to understand what you're asking of them and what's already out there.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's all very helpful.
Great, great, great. And should we jump back over to Bernadette?
Sure, unless anyone else out there wants to chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's give folks a half a
Yeah.
second.
Give me a second.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So in the past, we have so our programs at the city, and we have great, well, we converse mostly with our school district through email, and that is really what works best for them. So when we've done action plans, we've mostly done like one-on-one meetings with the principal, gone to the PTA to kind of introduce our program, and invited parents to participate in the surveys and the walk audits.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't necessarily had a lot of success in actually having like that team meeting. It's mostly been more one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
How much for the action plan, like moving forward, should we focus on developing that concept of the team meeting? When that has, yeah, I guess I would love your feedback on that.
Yeah, well, I think the team is really important. I do have to say that because you know, each one of those people brings something individual to the table, and also them understanding that it's more than just you working on this, that it's a collective as a whole is also really important. I think now with the times that we're in, that's even more challenging to do. But I still think organizing a call, especially a video chat with all of them to discuss overall what the program is doing, and what strengths each one of them bring to the table is important. And that's just, you know, you don't know what you're going to learn from that. And by just keeping it in a small box, you're not allowing yourself to really open up to other opportunities that you're maybe not thinking of with those specific individuals. So, you know, when it comes to team, I'm not saying weekly meetings with them either. You know, what's important about the team is utilizing their time to the best that you possibly can as well. So being super thoughtful about why you're getting them together, what your asks are for them. But yeah, I do think it's important to convene them in some way, shape, or form. And we can talk offline about that a little later too, to discuss that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Great. Any other questions from anyone? I'm not seeing any in the chat. We'll look there again. So I want to take the last moment to talk about upcoming the project identification program through ODOT, and Leanne Ferguson is the program manager for the ODOT's infrastructure program, and she sent me this specific slide. It's got a ton of information on it. I encourage you to take a screenshot of it to get all this info, but the key thing I want to point out here specifically are the dates that are coming up. So April 1st, the online materials went up on this website here. June 15th, the letter of intent is due, and August 31st, the application is due. And this is for the planning assistance for the infrastructure program itself. So this goes through what the description of it is, eligibility, and then the timeline specifically as far as the service starting in 2021. And it's on an average 21-week process to create the overall larger plan with a capital P, not to confuse the two. Great. And so with that, it is 1 o'clock. So thus ends our webinar for the day. I really appreciate everyone attending this. We had 23 people on the line today, so that's fantastic. Once again, my name is Brian Potwin. I'm with Commute Options. My contact information is brian@commuteoptions.org. I encourage all of you to reach out to me with further questions. I'm here to help for the ODOT's non-infrastructure program with Safe Routes to School. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.